Welcome to Reading Under the Covers, a romance novel podcast where we chat, fangirl, and maybe even swoon over our latest reads. I'm Francesca from Under the Covers book blog, and today we are talking about 3 of my hidden gem favorite books that I read in the month of February on Kindle Unlimited. Now, before we dive into those, I wanted to remind you guys you can find all of my favorite recommendations for Kindle Unlimited books I read in 2024 on the blog, so I'm going to leave all of those linked in the show notes down below. And I also didn't read a lot on Kindle Unlimited in January, but we do run a Kindle Unlimited romance book club. It's called the League of Lusty Ladies, and we did have our pick, of course, for the month of January and February, and I really enjoyed both of those picks. So if you want to catch the discussions for both of these, we already had those live on YouTube, so you can check them out and get those wonderful recommendations. So we read A Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager in January, which is a fantasy romance and the first in a series. And then we read In Scandal with the Duke by Stacy Reed, which is also the first in a historical romance series, and that was for February. So I'm going to leave both of those live discussions linked in the show notes so you can check those out and get some amazing recommendations, because I for sure will be diving into both of those series because I absolutely loved both of those books. If I have to pick one of those, which one was my favorite, was definitely the Stacy Reed historical romance that we read in February. It was just such a breeze to read and a super unexpectedly spicy one as well. If you want to join us in the month of March in our Kindle Unlimited romance book club, the League of Lusty Ladies, we are going to be reading Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent. This is part of the Crowns of Nyaxia series, but not necessarily intertwined with those books. It's kind of adjacent in the world, so it can be read as a standalone. I'm actually going to be reading it as a standalone because I have not read Carissa Broadbent before, so it's going to be my first foray into her books. I'm super excited about it. You can come and chat with us on Substack Chat as well as you were reading it throughout the month. And then we're going to have a live discussion on YouTube on April 5th. So if you are a Kindle Unlimited reader, definitely come and check out our book club. But now let's get to the good stuff. So my 3 favorite Kindle Unlimited reads from the month of February. So these are not necessarily new releases. I always talk about things that I personally read on Kindle Unlimited more so than books that came out on Kindle Unlimited when I do these wrap-up episodes. We're going to start off with Kiss the Rake Hello by Tracy Sumner. This is the first in the Troublesome Trio series. It's a historical romance with a reverse age gap, second chance, and enemies to lovers, and it follows Courtland DeWitt, who is an infamous second son who thankfully missed out on the ducal title by 3 minutes because he's a twin. He has been living his best carefree life ever since. But then we have Alexandra Mountbatten, the heroine. She's a widow who's finally free to explore passion on her own terms. Her circle of friends even has this thing where they find men that are willing to just satisfy their needs. Now, what she wasn't expecting is that the boy next door that she once dismissed has grown into this intelligent, stunning, and stubborn man, and one that she actually wants. Courtland is actually younger than her, and he's had a crush on her ever since he was a little boy. And while he thought that he had put all of those desires behind him, he now gets his one opportunity to get what he always wanted. This book has all of the classic elements of a steamy historical novella. It also has a bit of nurse back to health trope because Courtland takes a nasty fall and she has to take care of him. I had actually recommended this book when I first read it in the Substack Under the Covers newsletter, so you guys might have already seen my first impressions on that, but I'm going to play that for you guys now. Kiss the Rake Hello by Tracy Sumner is book 1 in the Troublesome Trio, and it's available on Kindle Unlimited. The series is about 3 brothers finding love, and the first book in the series, which I just finished and I absolutely loved it. The 2 main characters used to be neighbors when they were children, and he actually had a huge crush on the heroine, except she's a few years older than him. I think like maybe 5 or 6, 7 years older than him. She never even realized that he had feelings, but he's harbored those feelings forever. He's never forgotten her. He went off to war. He was a soldier. He's now back. His brother is a duke, and the heroine is now a widow. So we've got the reverse age gap. There is that second chance, I guess, at love, especially on the hero's side, but also on the heroine's side, because obviously she didn't have a happy marriage, and she is now finally being with somebody that truly cares for her and can show her that love and respect as well. It also has a bit of a nurse back to health trope because he does fall from a horse and ends up injured and she has to tend to him. This is a quick one. It's a novella. I think you'll absolutely love it. Plus, I mean, it has the best covers. Actually, that is the reason why I picked it up. I just couldn't get past the beautiful clinch bodice ripper cover that this whole series has. Absolutely stunning. I highly recommend that you check it out. I'm definitely going to be reading the other books in the series because I have to get all the HEAs for these brothers and I just cannot wait to read them. If you do pick up this book and read it, let me know what you think of it. And if you've read any other books by this author, also hit me up and tell me where should I continue after I finish this series. And that was my initial recommendation from the newsletter for this book. I still stand by everything that I said. This book is such a fun historical romance read. I absolutely love the chemistry between Alexandra and Cortland. Their childhood connection and the way that it morphs into something much more heated as adults is just chef's kiss. What I didn't get too much in the clip is how I also love the dynamics between the brothers in the series, and I'm really looking forward to continuing on because we do have 3 books in the series. They're all novellas, so again, super fast reads. I can already tell that all of their stories are going to be full of drama and passion, and also I am obsessed with the classic clinch covers, and I love that this series has that, and it's kind of bringing that back. I really hope that authors of at least historical romance really go into this trend more. I absolutely loved it, and it was definitely what caught my eye and made me want to pick this up. It just gives old school historical romance in all the best ways possible. So if you're looking for a quick but steamy historical romance and a strong-willed heroine plus a hero who has been secretly pining for years and a good reverse age gap, then Kiss the Rake Hello is definitely the one for you. The second book is I Accidentally Summoned a Demon Boyfriend by Jessica Cage. This is book 1 in the Accidents Happen series, and it's exactly what it sounds like. Our heroine Raina is the last single friend in her group, and after one too many failed date nights, she turns to her first love, which was books. There's a little bit of a drunk spellcasting from one of her favorite stories, and that leads to a very real, very hot, and very broody demon appearing in her living room. Shenanigans ensue from there, and now they're magically bonded, and she has to figure out how to break that spell because all of his problems are becoming her problems. Basically, everybody that's after him is now after her because she is his weakest link. Now, I also recommended this book in the Under the Covers Substack newsletter the week that I read this, so I'm going to play for you guys my original first impressions on this book as well. I'm going to talk to you guys about I Accidentally Summoned a Demon Boyfriend by Jessica Cage. This is book 1 in the Accidents Happen paranormal romance monster romance series, and book 2 is actually coming out in March. Imagine that you're drunk after a truly awful date, and in a moment of, why not, you decide that you're going to try the summoning ritual from the monster romance that you're reading, just for fun. Obviously, it's not going to work, right? Except it does. And now there's a very real and very sexy demon in your living room. Naturally, you assume that you're hallucinating because alcohol. So you just go with it and you have the best night of your life and take it by the horns. But fast forward to the next morning and he's still there. And surprise, you're now magically bonded to him. And the worst part about it is that his enemies are now your problem too. That is basically what you're going to find in I Accidentally Summoned a Demon Boyfriend. It is messy, it's fun, it's full of magical mistakes, forced proximity, fated mates. It is just a fun demon romance. It's a steamy paranormal romance. It's just a blast. It has over-the-top humor. It is perfect for fans of Kimberly Lemming or Shelley Lawrenston, and it's just an absolute wild and fun ride. I am so excited for book 2 to come out next month. Cannot wait, and I will definitely be reading more from Jessica Cage, and I think you should too. Okay, so that was my newsletter recommendation, and after finishing this book, I can confidently say that it was just as fun as I was expecting. Raina is such a relatable main character, and her whole drunkenly summoning a demon scenario, it just felt like something straight out of this chaotic rom-com, if of course rom-coms feature hot brooding demons, which I absolutely love. One thing that I want to add is how much I appreciated the humor in this book. It is so funny. It's very self-aware, very over the top in the best way possible, and it leans into all of the best paranormal romance tropes. It has forced proximity, magical fated mates, a demon who is not thrilled about suddenly being bonded to a human, and the slow burn tension between Reina and her demon boyfriend is just perfection. I cannot wait to read book 2, and it does feature a vampire. So if you love paranormal romances with a bit of humor, some magic gone wrong, and a touch of spice, then I think this one definitely needs to be on your list. And the third book that I have for you guys is Bro and the Beast by Elsie Davis. This is the first in the Wolf's Mate series, and this one is just pure meta shifter romance fun. So we've got a cocky frat bro, basically, who gets into a car accident, and when he wakes up, he's inside of his twin brother's favorite shifter romance novel. Now, before this happened, he was giving his brother a hard time for reading romance novels until his brother just said, "Why are you making fun of it? You've never actually read one, so you can't knock it until you try it." So he was actually in the middle of taking up his brother on that in reading the story. And when he wakes up and he actually is in the middle of this story and he starts meeting the characters from the book, things take an even wilder turn because he realizes that he's not just in the book, he's the Omega in the Fated Mates romance. So he's actually traded places with the heroine from the story. Then there's Raoul, who's this intense, brooding alpha of the story, and he's convinced that Brad belongs to him. I actually read this one during our Romanceopoly Winter Market Square readathon, and I shared some of my thoughts real time as we were doing our reading sprints. So I'm going to play for you guys some of my thoughts that I shared during the reading sprints. I'm going to update you guys on my werewolf read, which is so fun. I'm pretty much done. I have one more chapter left. Bro and the Beast by Elsie Davis. It is so much fun. It's like a wild adventure. So this guy gets sucked into a book that he was reading, like a shifter romance that he was reading, and he was reading it as a male-female shifter romance. The heroine of the story was the Omega, and when he gets sucked into the story, he is basically the heroine, so it's flipped the roles. And he knows kind of like what the story is supposed to be about and like what's supposed to be happening. So he knows all these things that are true in this world, but except he's the Omega. So it's really fun. I'm definitely going to be continuing this series because we're not getting a resolution at the end of this first book. So I'm definitely going to continue on this series after we finish the Winter Market Square event because it's a ton of fun. It's kind of like not necessarily super humorous, but it's funny in a way. So I'm excited to see what happens between the two. They now know that they are fated mates, and they also, one of them has gone into heat. So I can't wait to see what happens after that. So I'm really looking forward to continuing that after this whole readathon. So that was me giving my initial thoughts after finishing Bro and the Beast. And let me tell you, I need to get to the rest of the story. The whole concept of getting trapped inside of the romance novel is already super fun. But the fact that Brad accidentally gets slotted into the Omega in a Fated Mates shifter world is just the kind of absolute chaos that I love to read. And I thoroughly enjoyed every single second of it. If you're into omegaverse stories, you're definitely going to enjoy this one. And I think one of the best parts of this book is how it plays with tropes while still delivering a very engaging and emotional story. There's, of course, the typical fated mates, there's mating heat, there's the Omega, but I also really love the role reversal from what he was expecting to happen because of the story he was reading, and then starting to realize that he was actually the one experiencing the heroine's point of view. That initial reluctance from Brad and the unwavering certainty from Raoul that Brad was his, it made for such a great push and pull romance. And of course, we can't forget about the humor because this book also had me laughing more than once. It was definitely a lot of fun. It does end in a cliffhanger because the story continues on throughout the series, but honestly, I think it just makes me want to pick up the next book as soon as possible. I think if you're into shifter romances and you're looking for that meta snarky humor with a side of fated mates, then Bro and the Beast is definitely a must read. It was certainly a book that I was really happy that I switched up my TBR for the readathon and added, and I had actually checked out that book so long ago. It's been sitting on my Kindle from Kindle Unlimited for the longest time, so I always really enjoy when I can get something that's been sitting there for such a long time off of my TBR. And even better when it's a good read. And there you have it. Those are the 3 highlight hidden gems for Kindle Unlimited that I read in the month of February. If you've read any of these, or if you have any other Kindle Unlimited favorites that you would like to recommend, please let me know. Leave me a comment on YouTube, on the blog, on Substack, wherever. All of those links and all of our social medias are going to be in the show notes down below. And don't forget that you can also check out all of the blog posts with my 2024 Kindle Unlimited favorites and join our League of Lusty Ladies book club, which is a Kindle Unlimited romance book club. We're going to be reading Slaying the Vampire Conqueror by Carissa Broadbent in the month of March. So come and join us for that. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you find something wonderful to read, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.